Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing one of the strongest possible teams you can currently use for the Open Ultra League. Now, these battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Alpha Club Y2K, so many thanks for the battle submission. The team features the ever-powerful Shadow Dusknoir on the lead, with Credilli and Guzzlord in the back to help protect Dusknoir against Galarian Moltres. Alpha Club did include a note saying this team was originally created by Taffy Star, but that he's been using this team a bunch this season and has had amazing results with it. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at this powerhouse team in action in the Ultra League. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty decent lead, Shadow Dusknoir into Walrein. Even though Shadow Walrein will have a pacing advantage, one Icicle Spear, even with the extra damage it got this season, is not nearly enough to threaten Dusknoir into shielding. Opponent makes a very nice catch, preserving Walrein and catching Dynamic Punch onto Florges, but unfortunately Florges is going to be immediately answered with Acid Credilli. Credilli, more than happy to absorb whatever they throw, even if they do actually have Moonblast, and they do. Moonblast lands, that does do quite a lot of damage to Credilli, but Credilli is going to look to overfarm and take a knockout with Grass Knot. Grass Knot is going to land, down goes Florges, and the opponent reveals in the back that they actually have a Trevenant. Walrein is a Pokemon that is used quite a bit more in the Ultra League this season, Trevenant not as much, but it is pretty cool to see an OG Walrein Trevenant core. Trevenant, unfortunately, getting hit with Rock Tomb after Rock Tomb. They're now double debuffed, and we see a simultaneous switch in as Guzzlord is met with the Walrein. Walrein fires off the Icicle Spear. That's big damage onto the Guzzlord, but Guzzlord will be able to hang on. Guzzlord is opting for Dragon Claw over Sludge Bomb. Dragon Claw will give it some very hard-hitting neutral damage. Dragon Claw lands, Walrein hangs on, but not by much. Walrein now very low, and this is going to set up the Shadow Dusknoir nicely. With Credilli not having any energy, this endgame is going to be all about fast moves. In comes Dusknoir, 1 HP survived from the Walrein. Walrein makes a last-second Icicle Spear, so the first shield is finally used. Back in comes Trevenant. Trevenant has reset its 2 attack drops from earlier as it fires off the Seed Bomb, but Astonish hits so much harder than Shadow Claw. Astonish into an Acid takes the KO, and that's a good game. We move to the next match, picking up a pretty nice lead, Shadow Dusknoir into Galarian Weezing. Considering there's a Guzzlord in the back, neutralizing the Weezing early would be absolutely massive, because that way the Guzzlord should be relatively free in the back. Dusknoir fires off Shadow Punch, big damage onto the Weezing. Weezing has farmed up a massive amount of energy, shield comes up, and it proves to be a wise decision as they go for Overheat. Opponent safe switches into Greninja. Greninja absolutely has to shield Dynamic Punch, but when they do, they're going to be met with the brick wall that is Guzzlord. If you thought the Greninja Guzzlord matchup was bad in the Great League, it's so much worse in the Ultra League. Look at that Hydro Cannon, that does absolutely nothing. This poor Greninja, Hydro Cannon after Hydro Cannon, Guzzlord just does not care. Now Guzzlord is going to look to lock in some big damage with Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw lands, getting Greninja low. Greninja will make a last-second Hydro Cannon, but even 3 Hydro Cannons is not going to be enough. Guzzlord hangs on, and Guzzlord is going to leave with a Brutal Swing. The Weezing is already pretty low, so this Brutal Swing is actually very threatening. Weezing forced to put up the shield, aggressive pivot into Credilli. Credilli has to decide, is it worth letting the Overheat through? No. The shield comes up. In the back, they have Jellicent, and this game is over. Credilli has the energy advantage, meaning that Credilli is going to make 2 Grass Knots before the 2 Shadow Balls are reached by the Jellicent. Jellicent, it looks like, barely misses the knockout with the 2 Shadow Balls, so either way, they were just in an endgame that they cannot win. But Credilli is even going to overfarm to throw on good timing. You absolutely love to see it. Grass Knot lands, down goes Jellicent, Weezing gets farmed down, and the opponent resigns the match. Shadow Dusknoir into Florges in the next match. Now this is a matchup where you definitely prefer to beat the Dusknoir. Even if they are running Moonblast and they land the Moonblast, it does not knock out in the Ultra League. So the no shield comes out, and it is just going to be a Chilling Water. Chilling Water means that Dusknoir's normally very oppressive damage is suddenly a lot more manageable. However, Chilling Water is not a hard-hitting move neutrally, so Dusknoir really not threatened even if they fire off Chilling Water number 2. Shadow Punch is going to land, no shield comes out from Dusknoir once again, Chilling Water from the Florges, and Florges gets KO'd. He's potentially looking to pivot out of this matchup. In comes Skeleturge. Skeleturge gets the farm down, but now Skeleturge just runs into the brick wall that is Guzzlord. In the back is Empoleon, and things could get very tricky here, as unfortunately Empoleon does have a lot of strong play against this backline. Credilli really doesn't like this matchup because the Metal Sounds do hit for super effective damage. Guzzlord is the better of the two answers into Empoleon, but Guzzlord's health is very valuable in this endgame because Guzzlord is going to do a great job at walling off Skeleturge's energy. Credilli was able to get a shield advantage for the Guzzlord, but Guzzlord is going to have to deal with basically a full HP Skeleturge and a full HP Empoleon. If Guzzlord can pull this off, Guzzlord really might be the greatest of all time, but I have my worries. No shield comes out on the Drill Peck. Guzzlord still holding on to those two shields as it fires off another Brutal Swing. Empoleon not going to shield. Empoleon knows that's just simply not enough damage to take the knockout, and Guzzlord is going to have to start burning shields. The opponent's Skeleturge is one off the move. In comes the Skeleturge, and Guzzlord is going to no shield. You really have to hope the opponent goes for the Torch Song here. They do go for the Torch Song. Both are resisted, but obviously Torch Song is going to be doing less damage. However, Torch Song ramps up the Incinerate damage. Guzzlord taking big damage along the way. Guzzlord will fire off the Brutal Swing. Guzzlord really hoping this can take the knockout. Brutal Swing lands. Skeleturge hangs on, and Skeleturge will be able to force the final shield. But the question is, do two Metal Sounds KO? Because if they do not, and they don't, Guzzlord is winning this game. Guzzlord with the 1v2 of a lifetime. Down goes Empoleon, and that is a good game. We see a bad lead in the next match. Shadow Dusknoir into Shadow Feraligatr. Safe switch into Credilli, going to be met with a Virizion. This is a very important bait out. Guzzlord does not want to see Virizion, but unfortunately, this is not a great matchup for Credilli. Even though Acid does hit for super effective damage, Credilli's charge attacks are walled. Credilli can fire off the Rock Tombs, but Virizion just simply does not care. So Credilli already down a shield, probably going to be losing switch anyway, so this is going to be a really tough game. Ideally, Credilli has to hope that the Virizion makes a misplay and ends up shielding a Rock Tomb, but they know that they don't have to do that. Virizion, oh, this will be very close to knocking out. Can Credilli hold on with enough HP to make a Rock Tomb? No, it's going to get knocked out by the double kick. Actually, a really nice play there. Stopping tapping to force a bigger farm down for the Dusknoir, and in comes Guzzlord into Feraligatr. Feraligatr fires off the Ice Beam. That's devastating damage. And this is where Shadow Feraligatr can be an absolute nightmare. Feraligatr up energy, up a shield, shields up the Brutal Swing, and now Guzzlord has to decide, is it worth shielding Hydro Cannons? Guzzlord says yes, shield comes up. Guzzlord will be able to fire off the Brutal Swing as this Feraligatr gets lower and lower, but Feraligatr still has so much offensive pressure in this matchup. Guzzlord gonna try and make the Brutal Swing. Opponent makes a catch onto a Latios. What is this doing here? Unfortunately, the opponent trying to run some Spice and it backfires. Even if Gator makes a Hydro Cannon, it will not do enough damage to KO the Dusknoir, and all they have left in the back is a Virizion, which can get Astonished down. Shadow Punch takes the knockout, in comes Virizion, opponent sees the writing on the wall, and concedes the match. Shadow Dusknoir into Shadow Typhlosion in the next match. We're about to see a whole lot of fast move pressure. Astonish versus Incinerate. Opponent throws on alignment, and you do not want to give away free Shadow Astonishes to a Dusknoir. Dusknoir gets a double up on Shadow Punches. Now the Typhlosion has to decide, are they going to go for good timing, or will they try and go for an undertap? They go for the undertap. Dusknoir going to go for a double shield, but now Dusknoir is only going to have to take one more Incinerate. Dusknoir can just fully farm down. So Dusknoir exits with a ton of energy, looking to pivot out, as in comes Bellibolt. Bellibolt is actually going to switch out and send in a Confusion Cresselia, and at this point, this game is already over, as Bellibolt is about to get torn to smithereens by Guzzlord. Bellibolt has no coverage for that matchup. The Confusion Cresselia really not doing a lot of damage to the Credilli. That debuffed Moonblast is pathetic damage, and Credilli's about to make that pathetic damage even worse, as it applies a second Rock Tomb debuff. Switch timer will be up soon, choosing to stay in this matchup, not going to go for a combo play with a Shadow Punch, instead looking to lock in bigger damage with the Grass Knot. The undertap from Cresselia. Cresselia, their Moonblast, it's going to be doing basically no damage. Aggressive pivot into the Guzzlord. Opponent switches into Bellibolt. They realize there's no way out, and they concede the match. Shadow Dusknoir into Togekiss in the next match. This matchup is a bit dependent on what charge attack the Togekiss is running. Are they running Psyshock or are they running Dazzling Gleam? Shield comes up, and they are on Dazzling Gleam. Shielding a Dazzling Gleam puts Dusknoir very far ahead in this matchup because that's a lot of energy down the drain. The opponent only got 1 HP of damage. Unfortunately, Dusknoir just fails to farm down on 1 HP. Togekiss makes the Dazzling Gleam, but Dusknoir now has the 1 HP survive. What is happening in this game? Pokemon refusing to get KO'd. In comes Typhlosion into a loaded Dynamic Punch. They shield, and they're about to hit the brick wall that is Guzzlord. Guzzlord's defensive resistances definitely seem to be a strong point for this team, as Guzzlord in so many matchups is just able to completely neutralize opponents' energy. Guzzlord's more than happy to no shield, as Tyhlosion only has resisted damage. Blast Burn lands in the back is a Gastrodon, and if Gastrodon ends up shielding the Dragon Claw, this game is instantly over. They will never be shielding here though, because they're usually expecting a Brutal Swing. But now in comes Credilli. Credilli really does not have to respect Water Pulse. Water Pulse is not going to hit very hard. They even have Earth Power, which does do more damage, and even that is not something that Credilli has to care about. Credilli, one acid shy of the back-to-back Grass Knots. Grass Knot is going to be shielded. Opponent throws on alignment as they desperately try and burn their Switch Clock. Shield comes up from Credilli. It's a Body Slam bait, and they do not get out in time. Their Switch Clock was not available. Not enough charge stacks thrown. Grass Knot takes the KO. Back in comes Tyhlosion, and the catch onto the Guzzlord. Say it ain't so. It's a Blast Burn, and that's going to be game over as Credilli will make it to the Rock Tomb. Very nice catch. I think Guzzlord could have won even if the catch didn't happen, but the catch was definitely the coolest way to end that game. Shadow Dusknoir into Guzzlord, a very bad lead for the Dusknoir. Safe switch into Credilli. Typically, if they're leading Guzzlord, then they can't have Empoleon in the back, because then they'd be ABA weak to fighting. So a Credilli safe swap into a Guzzlord lead is typically actually pretty safe. Credilli absorbing damage, firing off the Rock Tomb. Opponent could look to pivot out after they get debuffed, and they do, as in comes Skeleturge. Now, Skeleturge, not really the Pokemon that I was expecting to get switched into a Credilli. Credilli is going to be a big nuisance here. Credilli gets to apply a debuff, can't quite take the knockout, and unfortunately the opponent will be able to boost their attack right back with Torch Song. While Guzzlord is a wall to charge stacks from Skeleturge, unfortunately you can't really afford to bring in the Guzzlord here, because you're going to need a full HP Guzzlord if you want to get rid of the opponent's Guzzlord, so the shield will come up on the Dusknoir. Dusknoir, exiting with energy, could try and go for a Brutal Swing catch, does not get the catch unfortunately, and now if the opponent has Dragon Claw, this could get tricky. Shield comes up, they do have Dragon Claw, and this is going to be a problem. Guzzlord looking for a farm down that it cannot get. Guzzlord is going to make another Dragon Claw, and that is devastating damage. In the back is Talonflame, and this is going to be tricky. However, the game is not over, because there's a ton of energy on the Guzzlord and a ton of loaded energy on the Dusknoir as well. Guzzlord firing off another Brutal Swing. Opponent no shields once again. Guzzlord fires off the Brutal Swing on alignment as Talonflame gets the free Incinerate. The switch into Dusknoir. Dusknoir did not throw the Astonish, which means that Dusknoir does not have the back-to-back and cannot CMP tie here. So a bit of a misplay in this endgame. Talonflame goes for the fly, the switch into the Guzzlord. Oh no, Guzzlord 1 HP survive, forces the Cymbal KO, and that is going to be game over as Talonflame knocks out Guzzlord with the Bad Manners Flame Charge. We move to the next match, Shadow Dusknoir into Florges. We've seen this matchup play out, and this is a pretty nice lead for the Dusknoir. Dusknoir gonna farm up, trying to throw on good timing, but before it can, Florges will strike first as it full sends Moonblast. Moonblast actually gets an attack drop as well. That's a very low probability of occurring, so that's some unfortunate luck. Dusknoir lands dynamic, gonna send out Guzzlord. Guzzlord immediately gonna be debuffed here with a Shadow Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb lands, Guzzlord more than happy to absorb that damage. The unfortunate thing about sending in the Guzzlord here is if the opponent ever brings back in the Florges, it'll kind of force Guzzlord to pivot out, because Guzzlord really does not want to have to deal with getting fully farmed down by Florges. Guzzlord knows it, goes for an undercharge, and this is intentional. Guzzlord will take extra damage, but it will help burn the switch clock, so that way Guzzlord can switch out and send in Credilli. Credilli now up a little bit of energy. Opponent in the back has Corviknight, and this is going to be a very, very close endgame. The opponent getting that Moonblast debuff and landing the Moonblast was a big swing of momentum for them, but they're going to have to deal with the fact that they're ABA weak to Credilli. Credilli with a tough call to make. The Corviknight is already debuffed. Are they full send the payback? No shields calling the bait, but Corviknight full sends, and Corviknight does land some very valuable damage. It's now Corviknight going to be met with another Rock Tomb, -2 attack. Oh, what a catch! Threw 2 acids, waited a turn, got a devastating payback catch onto Dusknoir, and that could be the swing of momentum that Alpha needs to take home the win. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of HP available on that Florges, and the Florges gets switched in. Florges shields up the Rock Tomb. Florges will probably just be spamming out Chilling Waters in this matchup, and as the Credilli, you have a tough call to make. When do you decide to shield? Credilli going to be using a shield here. Credilli now debuff. Credilli can go for another catch and gets the catch of the Chilling Water onto the Guzzlord. Florges should go for the 0 bubble here, and they do. Florges will get a farm down, getting a few extra fairy wins. Credilli goes for a Grass Knot, but disaster strikes. Opponent catches the Grass Knot on a Corviknight, but they shield. This game is absolutely wild. Opponent thought they were catching a Rock Tomb. Air Cutter is no shielded, and this is going to be as close as it can possibly get. Credilli incredibly low, trying its best to hold on here. Credilli will fire off the Rock Tomb, but I think the decision, even though the opponent shielded the Grass Knot that they caught, to not go for the Rock Tomb backfires as the Air Cutter put them too low, and unfortunately they do lose that game. Hopping into the final match, leading Shadow Dust Noir into Como-O. Opponent breaking out the Spice Cabinet, but unfortunately, Shadow Dust Noir's neutrals are so oppressive that it can just absolutely degen this matchup. Dust Noir CMP ties on the Clanging Scales. Very nicely done, as Clanging Scales does come at a cost. It debuffs your defense, which means suddenly this Como-O is going to be taking way more damage. That's what forced Como-O to put up the shield. They go for a second Clanging Scales. They pivot out into Electivire. This opponent is breaking out the Spice Cabinet. Oh my goodness. Electivire going to win charge attack priority Ice Punch over the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing will just about knock out the Electivire. Electivire, tough decision to make, lets it go and gets absolutely rocked. Electivire still able to survive the Dragon Tail on very low HP. Ice Punch will take the knockout. Dust Noir gets the farm down. Dust Noir is starting to get low. In comes Como-O. Dust Noir not taking any chances, just knocking it out with this Shadow Punch in the back. It's Shadow Magnezone, and Shadow Dust Noir was just an absolute menace into this team. Dynamic Punch will get the shield, and look at this. Shadow Dust Noir doesn't even need the Credilli. Dust Noir is so OP. It takes the knockout. It actually took all 3 knockouts that game to secure the win. All in all, many thanks to Alpha for sending in this footage. And if you're looking for an Ultra League climbing team this week, this is a really good team to use. I feel like a lot of the play patterns when using this team are pretty intuitive, and this is just a pretty standard, strong ABB style team. You have a Ghost type on the lead, you have double weak to fighting in the back, and since this is the Ultra League, you don't have to worry about the fact that your Ghost plus Dragon Cord could get core broken by Wigglytuff, as Wigglytuff isn't really a thing in the Ultra League. So this team, I think I would really struggle to find Pokemon that would really core break it. Because even if you go up against the normals, like let's say a Licky, both your back 2 Pokemon are going to do fine there. Both your back 2 Pokemon beat Galarian Moltres, which is the main dark type of note. So I think this is a really strong, really balanced team. So if you're just looking to run the strongest possible team and rack up the wins, I think this is a great team to do so. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And an extra special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.